we look at the human genome, look at DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid. Is an enormously long molecule which is contained in the nucleus of the cells of all living beings, including human beings. And it contains information, which is really very important. So it has two types of information: genes that encode the proteins, which are the molecular machines of life, and the regulatory networks that specify the behavior of the genes. Okay. So inside the cells of all human beings is a data carrier. You know, the DNA is actually a data carrier which contains the information on how to build living things, basically. Deoxyribonucleic acid, very large polymer made up of nucleotide, bit of chemistry here, but this is not really essential, but this is the way it is. Each nucleotide comprises 3 elements: an organic base containing nitrogen, pentose sugar, deoxyribose, and a phosphate group. Well, one thing is that DNA will in no way spontaneously form in any sort of order because it's a very unstable molecule. You know, just trying to say that this spontaneously came into being by itself, even just a simple DNA molecule without any information in it won't form anyway, because sugars don't really form very easily. Deoxyribose is a sugar, and they just don't form easily. Like, for instance, they do these experiments with throwing lightning sparks through various kinds of chemical mixtures, and you don't get sugars, so they don't work. And these things just won't join together. If you just once life is gone, then it very quickly just falls apart and decomposes, hydrolyzes, and all sorts of things. It doesn't. But even if it could, then where does the information come from, which is the essence of it, or really again, just as a book. The point of a book isn't that it's ink on paper. The point of DNA isn't the fact that it's pentose sugars and phosphates and nitrogen. It's the fact that it's got information in it, which is the real point. Okay. Okay, that's the double helix of DNA. Yes. Incredible, really. It's just amazing. I think biochemistry is amazing, but anyway, these 4 bases, okay, there are 4 different, you can see it's got 4 letters. Okay, DNA has 4 letters. It's a language with 4 letters, and the 4 letters are arranged into groups of 3, and those groups of 3 code for all the proteins and the various different things. Okay. So the double helix structure protects the genetic code because the sugars and stuff are on the outside and the bases are in the middle, so they're sort of protected. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And these 3-letter units code for the 20 amino acids making up the structure of proteins. Okay? These are the amino acids, not that essential, but these make up the proteins these make up the structure of proteins. Okay? The point is, DNA is the most compact data carrier known. Okay? The human genome, in other words, the information needed to make a human being, which is inside the nucleus, it contains 3,000 million base pairs, or individual bases, and this corresponds to 1,000 million codons, or letters, because the letters are actually made up of 3 base pairs. And that corresponds to the amount of information in 3 complete encyclopedias, something equivalent to the Encyclopedia Britannica. If we compare this with the Miller-Urey experiment, this was an experiment done in the 1950s by Miller and Urey in New York, I believe, in which they wanted to see if they could create the building blocks of life in the laboratory. So they took what they believed to be the atmosphere of the primitive Earth, or how this was made up: nitrogen, hydrogen, water, excluding oxygen, because that really would have messed up their experiment anyway. And then they boiled this up for a few days and put electricity sparks through it to simulate lightning, to see if they would get any of the building blocks of life out of it. And what they actually got was the equivalent of something like this. They got a few very simple amino acids. They certainly didn't get all of them. The amino acids are all one-handed you know, so they're all going the same way, but they got mixtures of them, which is why I've got some letters the wrong way around. And to say, you know, instead of the Encyclopedia Britannica, they got something like that, basically. And then they were saying, oh, we've made life in the laboratory. I don't think so. Okay. In fact, apparently, many years later, the guy who did the experiment was asked, he was at a creationist lecture, and he was asked, would you like to make some comment on your experiment? He said, no. I don't think he believed it himself. Anyway, next one. Conclusions. So, based on informatics, what conclusions can we draw? DNA contains information. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. DNA corresponds to information. Information doesn't come into being spontaneously by statistical processes. It doesn't just form itself. So there must be someone that put that information there. That is a reasonable conclusion to draw. Okay. The complexity indicates that the sender must be supremely intelligent because he put like 3 encyclopedias worth of information into one molecule. It's pretty impressive. Okay. He must be supremely powerful to have designed and made the initial life forms because, of course, he made all the different DNA for all the different life forms, not just the human beings. Okay. So to know all the information, the sender must be eternal. I don't know if you can actually draw all these conclusions, but they're reasonable. Okay, next. This is interesting. This is an interesting point that he made, and I think it's fascinating. No material source can produce information, so the sender must be non-material. So the creator of the information in the DNA must be non-material, and spirit, of course, is non-material. Okay? Information also originates from man, so he must have a non-material component. Man must also have a spirit. That's an interesting point. I've thought about this one. Because man is creative, man can actually create new information, can't he? He can create art and literature and all kinds of things. Animals don't have a spirit. The animal behavior is programmed into them. I think animals can learn, okay, you can teach them tricks and things, but they can't innovate. They can't actually create. The way animal behavior shows that they don't act in a way that they have actually invented themselves. It's either instinct or it's something that they've learned, but man can actually innovate, and he can create new information. I think that's fascinating. Okay, according to speculative theories, the Big Bang, okay, the so-called Big Bang, billions of years ago, produced matter and energy, okay, but could not produce information, okay, because information is separate from matter and energy, okay. Evolution claims that matter and energy acting over long ages by the laws of physics and chemistry were sufficient to bring everything into being, but the science of informatics shows that that is not possible, okay. Neither information nor life can originate from these. So life, well, I didn't say much about life as such, but we said the 3 entities. We've got matter and energy, then we've got information, and we've got life. Life requires, in the same way, life requires a physical body, doesn't it? All kinds of life, it's actually physical. So it works by physics and chemistry, but it also contains information. It also has that unknown quantity, which we can't really define, called life. It's got all 3. Actually, life has all 3. Okay. Okay, I think that's possibly the end, is it? Yeah, okay. Well, that was a quick run through informatics and why I think it's extremely powerful. No argument for the existence of God is absolutely 100%, is it? Because you can always come up with something. But I think that's a very powerful one. Of course, it doesn't tell you who God is, but it certainly tells you that there was a designer who put that information there into life. Okay. Any questions? That's the end of that section.